Yo, what's going on, y'all? In today's video, I'm going to be making a Travis Scott x Don Toliver type beat. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's going to be pretty simple and straightforward, and hopefully you guys can get something out of this video. If you do, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. I appreciate it a lot, and it helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. So I already picked out the loop that I want to use for this beat. It definitely has that dark kind of Don Toliver, Travis Scott sort of vibe, so here's how it sounds. So I can tell how that sounds. With me, I like to pitch up and pitch down my melodies, and with this one, I can just tell it won't sound too good pitched up. Sometimes some melodies, when you pitch them up an octave, if they're already playing at a relatively high octave, it won't sound too good after being pitched up. So a quick thing that you guys can do to easily create variation in your beats is you can take a melody like this, it's kind of in the middle between being played at a high octave and being played at like a low one. You can basically just make it unique so you have two separate tracks like this. You can take one of them, pitch it down 6 semitones, like that, okay? And then you take this one and pitch it up 6 semitones. So now basically you have a slightly lower pitched one and a slightly higher pitched one, which you can use for variation in your beat. So here's how the lower pitched one sounds. And then here's how the higher pitched one sounds. So they both, sound pretty close to the original melody we used, but at this point now allow us to have variation with a lower pitch version and a higher pitch version, which is key for arrangement of the beat, honestly, especially on drops. When you bring it to a higher octave, it can create a lot of energy in your beat. So quick little tip for you guys. So now that I got my melodies the type of way I want them, I'm going to go ahead and get started on a simple little drum bounce. I'm probably just going to get the kick, the snare, the hat, clap going, and then I'll probably work on the 808s after that. So all I'm doing here to duplicate my snares over is holding right click on my mouse and dragging to select these first 4 bars, and then I'm just pressing Command B to paste it over to the second 4 bars of the 8-bar loop I'm using. And so that's just a quick way where you can easily duplicate, whether it be your snare, your kick, or your hi-hat, or whatever sound it is. It's an easy way to just quickly duplicate it to the next section of your thing, especially if you're sticking to the exact same pattern. It just makes your workflow a lot easier. So that's just a quick little tip for you. So all I'm doing here is just messing with the velocities of the hi-hats. Basically, I'll just go to where it has the first 2 hi-hats played, and I take the second one and lower the velocity to around 70. So basically, the second hi-hat played here is essentially playing at a slightly quieter volume, which makes it feel a little more human, because if you're actually playing drums, you're not going to play the hi-hat at the exact same volume every single time. So it gives it more of a human feel and definitely gives it more of a bounce. And then what you can do to quickly duplicate that over is just select the hi-hats you have and press Command B, and that will duplicate it over. And then you can select that, do the same thing, select that, same thing, and then finally select the 4 bars and duplicate it over to get your full 8 bars. And so that gives you a nice little bouncy hi-hat pattern off rip. And then what you can also do is do Option R on Mac, and that pulls up this randomizer menu where you have all these different options. The only thing I really play with here is panning, which you can go all the way, but that goes like really crazy all over the place. If you just do a little slight and a little slight in the velocity, it just creates a little change in it, which is not super noticeable, but subconsciously you feel it, and it adds more bounce to your drums. So definitely try messing around with that if you haven't with your drums. What you can also do, if you go to your hi-hat, or really any drum sound, I really only do this on my hi-hats and trap beats. If you go to this wrench icon after clicking on hi-hats or whatever sound it is, if you go to Shift, you can mess with this, and basically this will drag your drums slightly off grid. The more you do it, the more off grid it is. So around like here and after, it's going to be really far off grid and not really even be on time. But if you do it here, it's just slight enough that it adds a slight swing to your drums without making it super all over the place. Here's how that sounds. all I'm doing here is I'm just dragging this preset called Simple from this Ivy League kit, which is a kit by Chew, which is super helpful and dope. I'm just dragging it onto one, which has my melodies in it. And basically all that does is it adds a fruity parametric EQ, which cuts out a little bit of the highs and lows. Now, personally, I didn't want that much lows and highs cut out, so I dragged it out just a bit. But it also adds this parametric EQ, which kind of just cuts the middle frequency down just a bit. It doesn't like remove it, but it just lowers it just a bit to give my drums more room to hit. And then it also adds a little bit of reverb, which I like because especially if I'm going for like a dark Travis sort of vibe, they use a lot of reverb in everything they do. So I definitely want to add that. And that just gets my melodies in a place where I think they'll probably sound pretty good, especially with drums going. Here's how that sounds after the fact. So now that we're done with the drums on this beat, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the 808. I think on this beat, I'm going to go for like a low 808 with a little bit of distortion, but I'm going to keep it pretty simple and probably just follow the kick pattern. Since the melody has so much going on, we don't need a crazy 808 going. So I'm going to go ahead and look for the 808. I'm going to keep it pretty simple and go from there. So all I'm doing right here, I'm just copy and pasting the kick pattern. All you have to do is right click on your kick and then click copy and then go to your 808 and click paste. And I'm just going to remove, so I have this like double hit on the kick on the one. I'm going to remove the second one just because I don't want the 808 to also do that. I just want the kick to do that. So I'm just going to remove that one and do it here as well as in the second part of the 4 bars. And then we will see how that sounds. So let me go ahead and remove those. And then here's how that sounds. So all I'm doing now is just messing with the envelope on my 808. I just take the attack, decay, sustain, and release all down to 0, and then take the hold all the way up to 100. And basically that means the 808 will play when I want it to play and cut off when I want it to cut off. And now that I have that done, I can take the 808 and I can just figure out the root notes of the melody and probably honestly leave the 808 pattern the same as it is, just putting them in the right root note. Like I said, I want the 808 line to be simple as I have a lot going on in the loop I'm using and really don't need a crazy 808 on this. So see you after I'm done with that. So I'm just taking my 808 and I'm kind of just EQing some of the high end out. Personally, there was just a little too much high end in the 808. I kind of want it to be a little lower. So I'm just taking some of the high end of the 808 out. And then I'm also going to put a fruity fast distortion on it. And I'm just going to mess with this AB knob, which kind of just changes the type of distortion that's on the 808. And then this thresh knob, which basically just reduces how impactful the distortion is on the actual 808. And I'm just going to mess with these until I get something I'm happy with. And I'll see you after I'm done with that. So I'm pretty happy with how the 808 came out. I added just a simple EQ, which took out some high end, but I also distorted it, which added a little extra oomph to the low end of the 808, while also kind of fitting into that Travis and Don Toliver sort of vibe. So now that I have that done, I'm just going to get into mixing. It'll be pretty quick, pretty simple. I'm just going to level them. And then once I have it leveled, I will get into arranging the beat. So let's go. So I'm pretty happy with how the mix sounds. Like I said, pretty quick and easy process. I kind of just level my sounds and make sure that the sample doesn't have frequencies where stuff will clash. And once I have that done, I do some slight panning and I think it's ready to go. So honestly, I think we're ready to arrange this beat. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I might add in some halftime on the melody just for like an intro or a bridge section or something. But other than that, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's just going to kind of stick to the lower and the higher octave melody going back and forth. And yeah, so let's get into it. So for the intro and the beat, I just went ahead and added this wondagurl percussion loop, which I got from her splice pack. It's just percussion loop 11 at 135 BPM, and time stretched it to fit on this tempo, as well as pitching it down to 2 semitones. I think it just creates a little cool extra bounce for the intro and has a little going on. I also just EQ'd out some of the high end in it, just so it has like that lower kind of just Don Toliver, Travis Scott feel. And here's how it sounds with the melody. So after I had this percussion loop going, I just added an automation clip onto this knob right here, which you can do that by clicking right click and then create an automation clip right there. And this basically just took out a lot of the high end in the melody, and basically that allowed for me to kind of have it slowly build up into the drop. I didn't want it to just stay the exact same into the drop, so this allows it to kind of slowly have some stuff going on before the drop, and then when the drop comes, it kind of just hits. So we got the beat arranged now. I just kept the same little intro and then the hook, which is just has the lower and higher octave of the melody. For the verse, pretty similar, just took out some drum sounds and added a little drop. This part, I took out the hi-hat and the 808 and kind of just let the drums carry it. And in this part right here, which is just kind of like the pre-chorus, I added in that perk loop I was using from earlier, and I also used the higher octave version of the melody with the same little automation clip we used for the intro, just to kind of create some variation. I know that Travis and Don have lots of different sections of their songs where they like to add hooks, pre-chorus, bridges, verses, whatever the case. So it's nice to give them, if I was producing for them, as many areas that they can do whatever they want with. So that was that, and then it just kind of repeats itself. Hook again, verse again, hook again, and then for the outro, just kind of have the melody play and then some drums to close it out. And that's it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I'm going to play it to close out this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. It helps me out a lot, and I appreciate it a lot. And see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Grizzly going dummy.